Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this video is actually pushing to our notifications array in our store so that other components can have access to it, and we'll also have a mutation that is going to do that for us. And we also have getters so that we can actually get this data from our store. So first thing here, we're going to create a mutation, and like I said, mutations are simply the only way that we have to change our state. So we'll create mutations, we'll call those mutations, and they're going to change the state of our application. Okay, so how do we create mutations? The general method is actually to write the mutation names in caps, but you can go ahead and do whatever you want. So I'll just go ahead and say add note, and this add note method is simply going to push a new notification to our notifications array. It's going to receive the state. This mutation is receiving the state, and right here we'll just say state dot notes dot push. So we'll push the notifications and we'll take in a note. Okay, so right here it means we'll receive a parameter from our component called notification, and then we'll just push that notification to our state. Okay, so we're gonna commit this mutation from our component. So let's go ahead to our unread notifications, and right here, rather than console.login, we're just gonna loop through all the notifications that we get from our database, and we're gonna push each of those notifications to our store using our mutation. So first of all, we have to say the response that we receive, which is the notifications, and in the body we have an array, and for each of the elements in that array, we are gonna get the notification, the current notification, and we'll have a callback right there. What do we do in that case? So for each of those notifications that we get from our database, we're just gonna say this.store. This.store is actually available to us because in the app.js file right here we registered our store with Vue, and also in our store.js we used Vuex. Okay, so once we use Vuex with Vue, we have available this store hook right here that we can use. Okay, and right here it gives us access to the mutations and the getters and all of that. So right here what we're gonna say is commit, and this commit is a way of calling the mutation. Okay, so we're not gonna call the mutation directly, we're just gonna commit it, and the name of that mutation is add notes, and the parameter we're gonna pass here is the notification. Okay, so the current notification in our for loop is going to be passed to our commit. The name of the mutation was add notes. So right here in our store.js, the mutation is called add note. Okay, so right here it's going to be add note, and we'll call that and pass in as a payload the notification in that loop at that point, and we are just gonna commit it, and as soon as we commit it, we should be able to have all the unread notifications for that user in this array right here. So my gulp is already running. Let's go ahead and see how that looks in the browser. So let me inspect right here. So if all works well, we should be able to see the notifications of this user. Okay, no errors in our view. If we go ahead and check our Vuex, we discover that in our notifications array we have a new object, and this object actually is a notification coming from our database. So first, our component right here, it sends an AJAX request. When it gets the results of the AJAX request, it loops through all the AJAX request results, and it calls a commit, which is a mutation in our store, to save that notification into our store. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is actually we need the count or the number of unread notifications so that we can display right here, which means we need a getter. So in our store, we're going to create some getters. So we'll have getters, and right here we're going to call getters. And remember, getters are simply methods or functions that are going to return our state. Okay, return the data in our state. And the advantage of using getters is that we can manipulate this data before returning them out of our store. Okay, so right here we're just going to say all notifications. So this getter is gonna return all the notifications, so we'll just say state, and right here, so it receives the state as a parameter, and right here we're just gonna say return state dot notifications. Okay, and the one in precise that we need is the all notifications count. Okay, so all notifications count is just gonna return state dot notifications dot length. Okay, so here, right here, we have two getters. The first one is all notifications to get all the notifications in our state, and the second getter is all notifications count to get all the notifications count in our state. Okay, so the next thing we need here is a computed property. And why are we using a computed property? So that this value is going to re-evaluate in case anything in our store changes. So right here, after my methods, I'll go ahead and define a computed property that I'm just gonna call all nodes count. And this computed property is simply gonna return this dot store and dot getters, so the getters in this store, and it's gonna call the all nodes count getter. Okay, so right here we have the all nodes counts getter, all nodes count, and we are calling it in our unread notifications. Okay, so this is the all nodes count, and we are getting all the counts of all the notifications. So now we have access to all the notifications that are unread by our user. So right here we're just gonna echo it out. So all nodes counts is gonna echo right here, so all the unread notifications that user has. So let's go ahead and try this out, and we'll take an overview of everything that we've done. So if I refresh, you see right there we have 1. And why do we have 1? It's because if we check over to our Vuex component, we have a commit. Look, at a commit was created, and this actually changed the object and the number of notifications that we have right here. Okay, so if we check our components, the unread, we see all node counts has been set to 1, and it's computed, meaning that if we actually push another notification, it's going to reevaluate and change itself. Okay, so just to recap before we stop the video of everything we've been doing, first we created an unread notifications component. So we have an unread notifications component right here. Now, what does this component do once it's mounted? It calls the get unread method, and this get unread method makes an AJAX request to our server to this endpoint get unread to get all the unread notifications of the user. So right here in our web.php, at the get unread endpoint, we are returning all the unread notifications for the user. What happens when this component gets the results? It loops through all the unread notifications, and it commits this notification to the store. So it calls a mutation called add notes in our store. So right here we have a mutation called add note, and what this mutation does, it simply adds a new notification to our store right here. So we have an array called notes in our store, and this notifications array just stores all the notifications that are unread by the user. So as soon as it calls that commit, it pushes the notification in the loop right there to our add note mutation, and our add note mutation just pushes that to the notes right there. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step was that we set up getters in our store, and these getters are simply going to help us to get the state of our application. And the reason we're using getters is because we can actually manipulate the data before it leaves our state. Okay, so right here we have a getter called all nodes count, and this is simply returning the number of notifications that we have in the notifications array. Okay, so right here in our unread notifications, we have a computed property all nodes count, which returns the value of that getter called all nodes count in our store. So we are using a computed property again because we want this value to reevaluate every time our store changes. If we use a data, we are just going to have static values. Okay, so it's like now this application component is in sync with our store. So in case we have now two new notifications, it's just going to reevaluate, and the value here is going to change all nodes count, and right here is also going to change. So I really hope this helped you. Go ahead and give me your feedback, and in the next video we are going to continue seeing how we can manipulate our components using our store.